Yo, shout out to battle rap first because you gotta have tough skin and be very secure with yourself in order to do that. And I think I addressed this before. And, like I know my nephew, that was probably like one of the only battle rap events I've been to. This was his first um battle. I think it was, I don't know if it was, might have been 2 years ago. When he had his first battle. Fresh out of high school, and I think he's, man, it's crazy. He's gonna be 20 in February. But we know the buzz in the battle rap community right now. I'm not gonna talk about that really, but we know, those who knows, what's the whole allegations and stuff about Remy and Pap and the cheating allegations, and I don't want to, go and be the typical podcast or journalist or whatever, and just be on like the gossip tip. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I have my moments where I will express my views and opinions on certain things. Being that this is going to be, you know, um, part three of the X series to count down for the 100th episode of Blair and the podcast and the Blair podcast, however y'all you know it as. I I want to point out something that's really been in my heart, to really just you know be vulnerable, be transparent as I always am. Whew. Public display of affection. I know how people always talk about what one person brings to the table. We talk about, men being the providers and women being the most disrespected. We talk about, the red flags and the deal breakers and all that. And, of course, there's the 70s and 80s music that we know and love. And now it's kind of more like there's more notoriety in like the negative things, like we talk about the love and hip hops. We talk about the baddest girl East and things and all these different social media platforms and um, programs, which is fine. Get your bag. And I say, out of sight, out of mind, but it's like, man, we always have a lot of views and opinions on things that don't apply to us. So I wanna take the take that focus off that right now, and I want to talk about the vulnerability of me. For those of you listening, thank you for your time, thank you for your subscriptions, thank you for your shares, thank you for your likes, comments, all that, anything, anybody who's listening at this very moment. I want to, you know, be in my full Blair form and just be open and honest and transparent with you all. Not for sympathy, not for pity, not for anything else, but for uplifting and encouragement. We can all be entertained. We all are all entertained by certain things. Sometimes we're entertained by drama. Sometimes we're entertained by sports. Sometimes we're even entertained from, you know, having fun. We entertain, people who do music, people who do podcasts, people who do movies, like any content creator, we are for creating content and bringing to life something that is going to be memorable, something that is going to be immortalized. A picture's worth 1,000 words. You can't always capture a moment with a picture, though. You can't always capture a moment on podcasts. Certain moments that we capture is going to be still in us in the heart. And even when we get old and sick and get Alzheimer's and everything, there's going to be some things that we forget. But the heart grows fonder and fonder when things are missed. So I said it to say this: my vulnerability, my transparency, my honesty. I struggle sometimes, being a man of faith, because I am so much invested in being entertained. I fall short. And as I mentioned all the time in a episode before, being a Christian don't mean that you are perfect. Being a Christian doesn't mean that you can't like certain things. Being a Christian doesn't mean you can't participate in certain things. You can do whatever you want. You can recognize yourself as whatever you want. You can see yourself as whatever you want. But like I said, the Christian side is still just, that can be your faith, that can be your makeup, that can be your representation. But because you have these labels, these characteristics, because there is the representation, yes. So my only thing is, the devil, as I always say, can make anything look bad. I had seen a video from the rapper Simba, which I will address on a later episode. But he had a bar saying, I don't trust anybody who believes in the Bible. So here's my only thing. And like I said, going back again to, we have to be, better in how we respond to things and how we receive things. But, sorry, I got a text. Again, vulnerability, transparency. So I always say, like, look, to each his own. I always talk about subscribing to your own truths. People all have, everybody has their reasons for what they do. Sometimes it's logical, sometimes it's not. I try my best not to debate things. I try my best not to, to try to be conformative. I just always talk about considering. Sometimes I can contradict myself. Some people might say hypocrite, but it's like, my thing is, there's things that have to be addressed only pertaining to that particular thing. I always used to have trouble compartmentalizing different things together. Like, I can have one view on relationships and then have another on music. Like, for me, being an artist and a person who is all about creating content, whether it's podcasting, whether it's music, whether it's scripts, there's a personality disorder. Not disorder, but there's some personality there. Like, there's going to be different personalities that you're going to be introduced to, that you're going to be reintroduced to when it comes to me, because as someone who has certain experiences and certain, you know, certain stories, I'm always going to have a different opinion on certain things. Like today, I was thinking about where I wanted to be relationship romantically with someone in 5 years. And then I think about what I experienced already. Because me, again, going again, as someone who has experienced life, I can always share my insight. I can always give my views and opinions on things, but I don't want to project it on anyone. But a lot of times when we're speaking, it's projection. So even when I'm speaking, whether it's with a friend or whether it's with a coworker or an associate, it's like I'm expressing from not always a standpoint of myself. And I have this conversation with having a conversation with, a near dear friend of mine all the time about it. But but I always try to be honest. And to be honest, I'm not always honest with myself as I would like. Because, like, again, it is hard sometimes to be honest with yourself and to accept things about myself when you have certain expectations of yourself. So you don't want to believe certain things. So when I talk about things on the podcast, I address certain topics, I discuss them. Sometimes I'm just sharing my opinion. Sometimes I'm just sharing my experience. But at the same time, being open and honest is, we're going to have these moments where we might backtrack, backpedal, renege. That doesn't make you an untrustworthy person. That just makes you human. Sometimes, of course, we can just enjoy have something to say, might have something to say, and then change our minds after that. And we might just like to hear ourselves talk. I'm guilty of that. I have had the tendency of interrupting people when they speak. But, I try not to be a vulture. I try not to take away from what's, producing fruit. I try not to put my foot in a door where I'm not welcome. I try not to stand stagnant at a place or stand stagnant with certain things when I need to move forward. I always say, and this is just reassurance and reconnecting with new listeners and viewers of, who I am. The person, words are words, but I do believe that words are all we have. They say actions speak louder than words, but there's also that accountability of saying things. There's certain things that we should not say. There's certain things that we should not do, but it's like if you're saying things, you're going to be held accountable for the things you say and the things you do. But for me, it's like, if I tell someone that I'm going to kill them, I'm then putting it in the universe. And again, that is a threat. So I have to take accountability for what I say because, again, like I said, at the same time, that's why they say, you have to be held accountable for your actions because what happens is if I say something and somebody hears me say it and then somebody else does it and it wasn't me, I'm the one that's going to be held responsible, even if it wasn't me. So that's why I say words are just as important. So that's why even when I sit and do these podcasts, sometimes I try to, you know, deliver a message the best way that I can. I'm not an English teacher, but also I'm not a critic. I'm just a man with insight, a man with inspiration, and a man with life, a man who enjoys speaking, a man who enjoys sharing and giving more to just himself. So, maybe then even on the next episode, I might end up addressing something else that I didn't want to address. But it's like, it's just all about monetary. It's like it's okay to be in the mood for something. It's okay to, take breaks. Like I always say, I am currently on a 5-day vacation. I took time off my work, to be able to spend time with, my kids and, you know, people that I care about and focus more on my passion. Like it's not easy being me when you but not like the what I put my the certain things I put myself in position. I still stay faithful. So even like so going back again, me my Christian background, my Christian faith isn't always represented best because I am vulnerable and I do own my mistakes and some of my bad habits and issues that I have. But again, it's like who's supposed to highlight and point that out? Who's supposed to hold me accountable? Other Christians who might be even just a poor representation, even more. Like who's supposed to hold me accountable? I have to go back into my Bible, back into my Word, back into my life experience, and think about what's the best solution, best route for me to take. I sometimes feel like maybe I'm like going through an identity crisis. Maybe I'm still trying to do some soul search and try to find myself. I'm well aware of the type of man that I am, but who am I really? I know the type of man that I want to be, but who am I really? Who I am really matters as well because though who I am right now does contribute to who I can be or who I want to be. The type of man that I want to be is the type of man I want to be now. Like the type of man like I want to be one. I want to be I want to be financially stable. I want to be more emotionally intelligent. I want to be someone that's dependable, someone that's reliable, someone that is trustworthy. So I can't always put out there every single thing. I'm just having a time right now, just really, really gravitating to certain discussions. Certain discussions aren't doesn't need to be discussed by everyone. On my previous podcast, like on my previous episode, I was talking about the importance of what Tyler Perry was saying. On an episode before that, I was talking about you know, how the relationship between Jeezy and Jenny Ma was like kind of, none of our business, but we address these things. But like, say you put yourself out there in the public, for just because someone put themselves out there, just because something is public, doesn't mean you have to be the one to, you know, touch it. You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing. It's like, hey, um, don't call me a nigga, call me king, call me God. It's like, the world might look at you as a nigga, and you can subscribe to it, but it's like, are you going to accept that narrative? Are you going to subscribe to that narrative? Because I tell you, like, this customer came in, and for those of you who don't know, I work at AutoZone as a manager. A customer came in, he was, he had a very enthusiastic, he was, just speaking to everybody, but he was like, yeah, what's up, my nigga, so you a nigga, this, nigga, that. But I told him to, I wanted to show him something, so I had my shirt, like my guy, shout out to, Heem Best, who is, who's out. Shout out to my homie. You know, I was like, call me king, call me God. And it's like, and I know he didn't mean no disrespect, but it's like, hey, sometimes when we're used to certain things, we accept it. When when we, when we're, and when we have habits, it's harder to break. When we're stuck in our ways, which is not even as bad as people saying, which I can, talk about later on. It's it's almost accepted. And it's like, hey, I'm about to just go with it. My thing is being authentic is just being, being true to who you are. We are going to be fickle. People are going to be fickle. We were not designed to be anyone but ourselves. We were designed to have a changing heart, have a changing mind. Sometimes it gets compromised because whether it's we're being overturned by a spirit or influenced by outside entities, that's the thing. There's a gauge because we have that positive reinforcements, because we have the gauge to receive that. We're gonna leaving ourselves vulnerable and open to also receive the negative. So I think part of what our life purpose is not surviving, not maintaining, but striving, overcoming these obstacles um that was put on this earth because we were created, as conquerors. That's why me personally, I do not, subscribe to being a descendant of slaves. I have done my research, as far as I can do, um, as far as my family, and I don't know where my family's from outside of Virginia and Carolina. Like all my family, like it says, it's still on this timeline. I'm in Virginia. My grandfather on my dad's side is from Virginia. My grandma's on my dad's side is from Pennsylvania. My grandfather on my mom's side is from South Carolina, and my grandmother on my mom's side is from Maryland. So it's like that's like I'm where I'm at right now. I'm within like 5 hours, like 5-6 hours. Still within that radius. That's not a short. That's not a long range. So wherever my family came from, where their relatives came from, because all I know is that a lot of the Virginia slaves came from Angola. A lot of the first Virginia slaves that landed in Jamestown came from Virginia. But where did the slaves from Danville come from? Where did the slaves from, Maryland come from? South Carolina come from? So it's like, as much as that matters, as much as where we come from matter, how important is it? Does it matter enough to really go through those stresses? Sometimes I think it does, because we still have to resolve some generational curses that have not been resolved. But it goes back again to just accepting and settling things. Like, we can't accept everything, we can't settle for everything. We have to just be vigilant and do our due diligence when it comes to certain things. A lot of times when it comes to, creating, I just wing it. Sometimes, I can't wait. I can't wait on people. I can't wait on others. Some things have to be done, and I have to do them. I'm a father. I'm a brother. I'm a man. But it's like, that's just the boss in me. I always try to, maybe why I come on so strong on people is probably because I want better for them. And a lot of times the reason why I want better for them is because I want better for me. I believe that, if you can do better, do it. You can have fun, have a good time. But, don't put yourself in a position like, I put myself in a position to go back into projecting, right? Like, I put myself in a position to where, I need help. I need financial help. Work isn't just cutting it. I have some issues, but I'm not saying that I'm gonna end my life, or not try to enjoy my time with people and enjoy like spend my money on things I want to spend my money on. But I still have a good sense of priority. So it's kind of like, man, this is, sometimes I can come off very, very prophetic, very ministry. But at the end of the day, I just try to, keep a balance, not of righteousness and ratchetness, but just a balance of vulnerability and protection. Because there's a time for everything. And I just want y'all to stay safe, stay prosperous, productive, and positive at the end of the day. And I'll be back on the next go round. This is Blair, episode 92. I'm out.